Oh, Dad, burn it.
With you, I can be sad with you. Just take my hand and fly up through the dreams where the skies are so clear. With you, I wanna stay with you.
Well, today, Ann and I have been grinding up our onions, dried onions, dehydrated, not the freeze dried, but they were dehydrated. So we put them through a grinder, just like a meat grinder. It's an inexpensive one. It's not one of those real expensive ones. I think it cost, I don't know, somewhere between $50 and $100. And so we had to be cautious, and we did have to break it down at least once and pull out the compacted onion powder because it'll make cement in that grinder if you're not careful. It'll burn up your motor. So we cleaned it up once, and once we started. And what I wanted to show you what that 20 trays of the Cabela dehydrator makes just over 1 quart of ground onion powder. Let me show you. Just to give you an idea, not all of our onions were this big and beautiful, okay? But I'd have to say a large portion of them were. But I'm down to the last bag of onions. And there's a reason why we're working through this last bag, as you can see, because they're sprouting. And I'm going to lose them if I don't do that. Now, we've already worked through about half of that bag. And as you remember in the other video, I was using this device from a Pampered Chef, and it worked really good. Now, interesting enough, my daughter sent me the advertisements and instructions for this device from Pampered Chef. And one of the instructions, it said, it's not recommended to be used on onions, which we had a real good chuckle because it did say that onions can be too hard for the blades. And when I'm pressing it through, that's what the blades look like. You have to be real careful to line that up, make sure that they're lined up. But it worked fine for us, and what we found was, when we put it onto the trays and then slide it in, what we're finding is that it dries very uniformly because it's cut uniform, where if you're doing it by hand, you're going to get a lot of different thicknesses. So I don't know what kind of slicing or chopping device you have, but this little thing seems to work pretty good. 10 trays, folks, is a lot of a lot of onions. Normally, I can do at least 2 of these big onions on one tray. And quite often, I would put a little bit more than 2 of these big onions. So now you know that you can use a whole bunch of little ones to fill these trays. Now, this quart is vacuum packed. We've already vacuum packed it with our sealer. And we have a food saver sealer, and it is a V3825 model, and it does come with a little hose down here at the bottom, and you stick that into that little device there. This one is for the wide mouth, and that's how we vacuum sealed our onions. Now, if you look real close, you'll notice there's some paper in there. Well, in the middle of that paper is an oxygen absorber. That's a hard word for me to say, I guess. Anyhow, So there's an oxygen absorber in the middle of that, and that is a coffee filter. My wife just put it in there. We rolled it up, or we just pushed it in. And what that does is stops all the powder. And there is a lot of powder there. You'll notice some of it's a little bigger grind than it is some others. What we found was the smaller grind is when it was jamming up, when the grinder was plugging up, and it really powdered it up. And this would be when it's not plugged up, and that's what we normally got out of that grinder. And it's just an inexpensive grinder. You've probably seen these grinders offered at different stores like Walmart, Bi-Mart, gosh, about every place you can think of that sells kitchen aids and kitchen goods. Inexpensive, but they seem to do the job if you watch out for overamping, and if it plugs up, it can burn up the motor. So, 10 trays in this Cabela dehydrator will do half a quart ground up. So we did 2 loads of onions sliced up with our device, our little chopper. So 20 trays makes 1 quart and then a little. She was able to put, I'm going to say somewhere between a half and 1 cup into a bag ready to be used. And this one, of course, is sealed up for storage, because we have been doing a lot of onions lately. I had 200 pounds that my son Bart and I grew last year. And we're going to finish them up, and we're working on to canning our the rest of our squash. We have Waltham butternut and banana squash still left. This is March, folks, and squash put in a storage, no light, and keep that temperature down between 35 and 45 degrees, and your squash will keep quite well. So I'm hoping that this kind of sparks your interest in growing your own onions. And there's a number of different types of onions, folks, so just see what's best in your zone, in your area. And then you can start by seed, or you can start by bulb, depending on your locale. If maybe your department stores or your farm stores may sell some bulbs. So we've got this done for now, and you know what I got to do. I've got to slice up a bunch of more onions, fill these trays, let them run. Now, we normally let them run for at least 24 hours. You've got to just test it, folks. 24 hours is going to be real close, because the majority of the onions are going to be dry in 24 hours. Now, just to let you know, our temperature set about 145 degrees. 125 to 145 is the setting for these vegetables. 120 to 135 is what it says, but what I've found is 125 to 145. So you see, it's pretty close. We just turned it up a little bit more. And this one does not have an automatic shut-off at a certain time period. You shut it off and test it yourself. So from Sand Hollow Homestead, Butch and Ann just wanted to share a little bit with you what we've been doing. And it never stops for us because we put up so much food, right? You know, we grow a lot of food, but then you have to preserve it. That's the important part. And it takes all of us to get that job done. And my wife's been working on this quite a bit. Matter of fact, she's dried a lot and ground a lot and put it up. And I thought I would just video this one just to share that here it is, you know, months after harvest, we're still putting food up. So from Sand Hollow Homestead, we're hoping that you'll stop in again now and then and check us out and see what we're doing. And the weather has turned really nice, and I have started working outside, and we'll show you a little bit of what we're doing outside and what my big project is. So we'll see you later.